Being human, let alone a leader in today's fast-paced, stressful, and ever-changing business environment is a challenge on its own. I'm sure there's some days when it can feel as if the world is just on top of you, weighing you down, having you fight one battle after another. I know Yvonne and I, we deal with these things and we power through them. And all we can, all of this can really wear you down. And in addition to that, we also have these global events, Yvonne, right, that are happening. We have from the pandemic to wars to global economical things and market instabilities, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So uncertainties all around us. And it's normal to feel tired, but we also need to be realistic with ourselves and say, is it that we're really that tired? Or is it that perhaps our routines and habits can use a little nudge and a little improvement, and being just mindful of what is it that we actually focus on? So the reality is that our daily habits sometimes just suck, and often they're the cause of insufficient energy, and that takes a lot of joy out of our days as well. So, and let's just look at just this basic idea of just focusing on what we can control, right? As I've mentioned, there's a lot of things happening around the world, but should we focus on that, or do we just kind of focus on our day-to-day, on the small steps that we can do to make our days more joyful and productive and whatever it may be, right? And not to go into the rabbit hole of doomsday scenarios. In addition to that, just being mindful of how much time we spend in front of the news. We know that if we're just engaged in the news and watching it all the time, it can wear us down. And let's be realistic, the news is rarely good news. So maybe limiting your news exposure to just a few minutes a day, just to keep up with what's happening, but not necessarily being deep down in it. And finally, our brains experience things in our minds if they're actually happening to us. So basically what that means is that if we're thinking about something bad happening or worrying about something and start predicting different scenarios that we'll likely have no control over, what's happening to our body is that physiologically and psychologically, we're going through the same motions as if we're experiencing that stressor at that time. And Yvonne, you can imagine how impactful that can be on our bodies and minds. Hi guys, Elena here from Western. If you're enjoying this episode, please make sure to hit the subscribe button to stay up to date on weekly new videos that we have coming out on personal and professional development topics. Also, feel free to send your questions and engage with us and comment in the YouTube videos in the comment section below. Now back to the episode.
Absolutely, Elena. I like what you say about getting the control first of our mindset. But now, what is more important than just time? Because this is not the biggest treasure that we have. The biggest treasure that we have is how do we manage our energy, what I call the energy optimization. So getting to know ourselves about what is the time of the day that we are in a mindset or in a mood that allow us to do certain tasks is what allow us to optimize our energy, the outcomes that we do. So typically during the day, we have areas of time where we can be really focused at work, and this is the time that we can use, in fact, for analytical type of task that we have. For close to 80% of people, this area is called the peak, is in the morning. For the 20% remaining is what we call the night owls. So the peak is somewhere in the morning for most of us, and this is where we certainly should devote most of our time for a specific task that require our processing area, our analytical power. Then often, just after having lunch, we have an area where our brain doesn't work at best in terms of energy. So it is the time that we can use for things that are not where the power of our brain is not that required, more administrative things, more routine work. This is, and finally, we have an area of our time when we are in full recovery, where we can derive insight, do connections that we usually don't do, be more creative. So after that, we have this downtime where we just do some administration in the afternoons. It's very often that we can take initiatives that are more creative, where we need a little bit of innovation. So optimizing our energy levels means basically that we need to be in line with our biological cycle. Most of us have been, most of our routines, in fact, of the day are determined by these cycles, and that derives from evolution itself. So it has been repeated and it has been anchored in our DNA, how our body, when our body reacts the best for certain specific tasks. And appropriating yourself and getting to know which are the timings are the best in order to optimize your outcomes. Now, I want to break, Elena, one of the most famous urban legends about intensity. So when you working hard with intensity for 5 hours, 8 hours in a row means being more productive. There is tons of research that shows that this is not the case. Why? Because our brain needs moments of disconnection. But moments of disconnection is not about taking big holidays in 30 days or waiting for the weekend in order to recharge. No, it means that our brain needs to have recurrent patterns of to create and load more energy. And you load more energy by disconnecting from what you are doing, taking a 5 minutes break after 1 hour, 1 hour and a half. It is something that is positive and it's proven to be something that incentivizes and allows you to be more productive and more creative. So it is not about having a big intense time of just a big break where you're not working. It is about doing it in a recurrent manner in short micro pauses that you will do during the day. So let me tell you just in one shot, Elena. So if you're really a professional, if you think you are super awesome in terms of productivity, you need to take breaks. If you are an amateur, then you're the type of guy who doesn't take, who will not take breaks. Micro breaks of 5 minutes. Micro breaks, it means disconnecting from anything that will increase the load of cognition of your brain, which means don't go and surf in social media. Don't go and surf in the internet, because you are asking your brain to function and read some stuff to create emotions. Have human interaction. Have call your family. Go for a walk in the nature. Do something that will completely disconnect you from anything that where your brain is going to be continuously on demand, right?
Absolutely. And what I like it that it's so simple. And I think that's what, and I always, people who listen to this, I always talk about, sometimes we forget the simple things that actually have the huge impact. And so just to also maybe throw a couple of things in there, when you're talking about, habits and routines, just look at auditing those habits and routines and just really starting with basics, such as your sleep. And I know, but really get some quality sleep, that works for your body. So enough said about that. I want to just get enough sleep. Food, like checking on what you eat, right? How we feel after we eat certain foods. We shouldn't feel sluggish and exhausted after we eat a meal. We should feel energized. So if you feel sluggish or exhausted, it's probably not the best thing for your body. So we need to, I think, just be mindful and listen to our bodies. It's like a machine that gives us notifications all the time, just like on our phone, except on our phone, we pick it up and we take action to notifications. When our body sends signals, we don't pay attention. So I think that's such a basic that we really just need to be better at. And joy, like you mentioned, just making time to do things, to move, right? Have joy in your life and just spend time with family, taking those small little breaks, going for a walk. Movement alone does a lot for our bodies. So, and I think that, again, all of these things, when we talk about sleep and movement and pieces of joy and having those breaks and just optimizing our energy, if we just fix that, that should be the basics, right? So that's where I would start with. Like, if somebody is listening to this and oh, I just feel really tired, for no reason, you feel like there's not a reason to be tired, check on those things, because the reality is they're probably those you need to start with. There's no magic formula.
You are right, Elena. I think this is the right time to give away a little bit of a secret of something that we have been working together already for a couple of months now. And this is about the fact that we wanted to share more of actionable points. In fact, for leaders specifically, leaders have a lot of influence in the rest of the organization. So how do we create leaders? We help them to create these habits that are going to create like awesome organizations, leadership that is forward looking. And I was just thinking about the amount of good tips in order to start new habits that are going to make us better leaders, better people, and be able to manage our time, our energy in a better way in order to be successful at work and really enjoy what we do. So very soon you will have more news on our book on leadership.
Yep.